Okay, I'm gonna report. Okay, there we
Thank
go.
you.
We got a
Okay.
report on the computer and I'll find a way to dump in it after that.
Good afternoon. Today is July 18th, 2023. The Board of Assessors meeting is starting. Thank you for attending. In accordance with the requirements of the open meeting law, please be advised that this meeting will be recorded and can be found on the Lunenburg Access YouTube channel within 24 hours of the meeting. The public meeting is being conducted remotely. The following information is also provided for the members of the public who would like to participate in the meeting remotely. To participate remotely from a computer, please use the invite link below to join the public meeting webinar. Today, we're going to, the agenda is going to be, first of all, limited to public comment. Please leave, if you have public comment, please try to limit it to 2 or 3 minutes, and we will go on from there.
Are you gonna let the board talk first or you want them?
Oh, and
Let them,
Yeah.
they're nice people. They
Yeah.
should go first.
go ahead.
Well, Phyllis Luck, 50 Sunset Lane. I wanted to let you know that I called the assessor's office this morning. Both Sheila and Rena were very responsive and helpful. I take this as a good sign that the assessor's office is striving to restore the trustful working relationship with Lunenburg's residents. Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Carl?
Yeah, I have a question which maybe you can answer, but looking forward, put the past behind us here, but looking forward, I think I understand from the last meeting that the process, the 5-year process that's about to begin in this fall or so forth, that process is primarily, that the inspections are primarily to confirm or certify that the information is correct for every house. You know, it's still a cave, it's still whatever. That's my understanding. If that's the case, or maybe even if that's not the case, given that we've now complicated the lakefront valuation process by having 3 sub-tiers, I'm wondering how the people that are going to be out doing this certification are going to know how to put the various properties in the proper tier, that they confirm that it's the proper tier. So I'm wondering, is there some document that outlines how the tiers are to be determined by these people and confirmed? If not, will one be created, and who would create it and who would bless it? So it just seems we've kind of complicated it, and it's no longer just, you know, is it a cape, you know, or is it now a colonial? It's now something related to average, above average, and below average. And I'm wondering where that's defined so that the same criteria is going to be used in this reevaluation.
That's a good question, and I don't actually know the answer, and I'm not even sure. Oh, do you know the answer, Rena?
We're going to be using the same.
Can you hear Rena, Carl?
Yeah, I can.
We're going to be using the same site indexes that
Did Nate
that
Kramer?
Nate Kramer created. CJ has already input those into all the land use codes for 24. So they're already in place. Now what we're going to have to determine going forward is the dollar per square foot on those good waterfront or average waterfront. Do those have to be either increased or decreased? So that will be determined by sales. But what Nate has put into place, CJ has put into place, all the land use codes are now in there. With the A1 is waterfront good. A2, I think it is average. And A3, I believe, is below average. But they're in place.
Okay.
And they'll stay there going forward.
But you're going to have a new company, Vision or somebody, I think, is going to come in and go to every property to confirm that everything is correct. How are they going to confirm that the average, above average, or good
By sales,
is correct?
by the sales. Everything is going to be based on sales.
Everything's going to be based on the sales, Carl.
Would be on 22 sales.
22 sales, 2022 sales.
But But the evaluation is house specific.
Well, it's mass appraisal, so it's gonna be.
How, how are they going to confirm that you're in the right group?
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah.
If I could, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Okay, we have the parameters established through Nate. We do need to codify them to make them available so people can look at what these 1, 2, 3 mean. And we have to actually should vote on it and say, this is the official policy we want to establish.
Well, you.
Yeah, even though it's
already-
established, we want to
you
make it
already
official.
Established that when you voted on Nate's report, and you accepted that.
Okay.
So you accepted good, average, and
Right.
below average. So now those neighborhood codes are in place
Mhm.
for lakefront
Okay.
property.
Should we somehow grab that section and say, this is one of the policies we have? Do we have policy statements that say this is what we're gonna do? Or wouldn't that make sense to start a policy if we don't have one? I recognize that his report can change and disappear unless we have that under documentation control and we can reference it. Why wouldn't we just grab that whole thing and and for that matter, I think what Carl's asking is that, yeah, first of all, we're gonna establish a price, but perhaps we go a little more granular. What makes the above average? And I know, the sloping green lawn was part of it, but none of them really addressed the water end of it. But I'm just putting that out. I'm not trying to make an argument either way in terms of it should. But should we take a little bit of time just to push that? Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Luck?
Mr. Chair, just, I understand that the base is Nate's base, and that's what was accepted essentially and used for the abatement process. But not all lakefront properties were looked at by Nate and included in his report. There are lakefront properties that did not request an abatement, and therefore Nate didn't look at them, and they didn't make it into the Nate report that went to the select. So there are a number of properties that weren't looked at, that somehow, I don't know how, it'd be good to know, have now received a good, better, or worse rating without inspection. So I'm wondering, for these properties, there is no baseline from Nate anyway.
Well, that's a very good question and a good observation, but I'm willing to bet that it will be taken care of by Vision because they're highly qualified. I also have another question myself. Is it can if the property was if there was a discrepancy in the owner's mind, can they actually point that out to the Vision people?
Well, Vision people are not going to be going around like Nate did. They're gonna do a full field review. That means they're gonna drive every street in town, but they're not gonna get out like Nate did and go on individual properties.
But you heard what Carl asked about the people who weren't visited.
The people that were not visited, their land, their site index got changed going forward, whether they applied for an abatement or not. The difference is if they did not apply for an abatement, they don't get money back. But going forward, their land has been classified as either good, average, or below average.
Okay, thank you. Did you get that, Carl?
Yeah, and I won't belabor it. I've taken way more of your time. I have to digest that a little, and we'll all see what happens, I guess.
We had 400 abatements. How many waterfront properties do we have? Do you know?
In total, 455.
400. Every one of them was
455.
450.
Yeah, we only got about a
Well,
400.
we had about 10% of the people did not file for an abatement.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So it's simply a drive-by and,
Well, the real thing, I think, is a classification of the type of house. And that's to make really, the thing is consistency. To make sure that everybody on that same street is treated the same way, et cetera, et cetera.
so they're not going to look at the property, just the house or the property. and
They are not going to
drive-
go in the house.
They're not going.
Not going in the house,
They're not going in the house.
And they're just driving by the property, so they're not able to see beyond into the backyard or the front yard if you're in the lake,
Because theoretically, Nate has already done that. The visits to the house, and correct me if I'm wrong,
Yeah, sure.
would be done in the in the annual, the 10% per year. You know, the
Okay.
Cyclical.
cyclical, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay,
Yeah, thank you, sir.
okay, you're welcome.
We're learning all the time.
We'll try to get a little bit more specific next time you're online.
Come on, the guy's a physicist. Do you expect that? The president of Carlisle, we're an admiration of what you did in terms of designing the remote control drivability. of the Mercedes. So you're brilliant. Thank you.
Thank you, Jack. Bye-bye.
And that's all the public comment we have. Thank you very much, Mr. and Mrs. Luck. During the open meeting, we're going to discuss office functions and the work plan, as well as the,
What about the other members? What about the other members? Don't we have a?
oh, yeah, okay, man.
I'm having too much. fun.
Okay.
I'm having too much.
So what's your complaint?
No complaints,
Go
no
ahead.
complaint. I always have complaints, but no complaints.
Carl's off, right?
Carl, you still there? He says he's still there. Okay,
No,
Hey,
he's there, but he's only.
Wait, I'm here, I just muted.
is it, okay, the posted agenda, I can't get, if I'm some member from a public, unless I'm signed in, I wasn't able to get in today. The town, you go in and Lunenburg Board of Assessors, and you go in and you ask for the agenda, and you type in the word agenda, and next thing it only takes us down to the last meeting.
I got it. I got it.
Did you go, did you
I
go
went out to
through,
the town's email.
you went to the town's email?
Yeah.
Yeah, their website, the town website.
No, I just want to, just write straight to the email.
Oh, that Sheila had sent you. Yeah.
They're posted publicly on the outside board that's in, when you first come into town hall, those are the legal.
Right, there's two legal points that you have to, and then there's the convenience factor as well. And so I went in just because that's easy, that's the way I always learn how to do it. And it wasn't there. It was the old one that was sitting. The question is, do we own posting that
The town clerk does the posting for us,
for us? Okay, so Kathy's, would it be Kathy?
Kathy or Ellen.
Okay, okay. So where do we go from here such that the public can see what's on our agenda when they go that route?
I thought we could, so I'm not sure if it's more than one place on the website, I'm not sure.
With my computer, anything's possible, Sheila.
Okay.
But if you could take a look and see, because, yeah, I was really surprised at that. And of course, I was really surprised that somebody misspelled rabbit on my email address, but
They
that's.
misspell fish, trust me, they can misspell anything.
Oh, God, yes.
And they can misspell the tart, let me tell you.
Yeah, oh, we do that all the time. And you got Ellie, Ellen, whatever. Okay, so the end of the meeting, could we suggest that we take a moment to establish some topics about what we might want to talk about next time?
Yeah, we would, yeah.
Yeah, okay, I'm just,
It's only a suggestion.
yeah, that's all for me. I can never do. I only can suggest to the chairman. You have ultimate say, Rich.
Yeah.
It's all on your
Okay.
shoulders.
You are the ultimate BS artist. too.
Yes.
Okay,
Oh, that hurt.
okay. No,
Okay.
I would consider it a compliment. you know.
Yeah, well, you're out of the Navy.
It-
That's okay.
It takes one to know one. but
Yes.
Anyway,
Okay,
so you all.
I am done. I am
Kevin,
done.
do you have a comment? Thank God for Kevin Fish. So, he does his job nice,
Brilliantly. yeah.
nice, quietly and brilliantly.
Yeah.
So before we actually discuss the office functions, I want to say the Board of Assessors basically reviews payments for accounts payable, for payroll. It does abatement, it works with abatement requests, and we've had a lot of experience with that. It reviews excise tax abatements and exemptions such as low income, elderly, and veterans. The staff handles many other functions, all other functions, and I will pass the meeting on to Rena to elaborate.
We want you to see
See,
if we
once you
get,
turn that.
I'm gonna
to-
turn it down so you can watch Rena here.
I printed out.
Can you see it,
for-
Carl?
I printed out for you fellows, my
He gets
to-do
something.
list. And I basically, I'm following what needs to get ready for recertification. The first thing I have to catch up on is the lot splits. In order to enter all the new growth, because with all those abatements, CJ wasn't able to finish up the lot splits. So the first thing I've got to get done, and I've already started on it, is lot splits. When the lot splits are completed, then I can start all the new houses that have been built in the last year and get them into the system, because eventually the homeowners are gonna have supplemental tax bills for the building only, because they've already paid for the land. And that's working on all the growth. I believe CJ has left me a spreadsheet with all the things he has put in for growth. And growth is like land splits. It's new buildings, it's decks, it's pools, it's additions. Anything that added on with the building permit to the house or something was picked up during cyclical inspections. That's all going to be added to new growth. So I've got to get that ready. And that one has to be, submitted to the Department of Revenue. And then I've printed out a copy of the sales verification forms that I found. I got from the town of Littleton. Kathy was nice enough to send me. The sales verification forms are going to be sent to everybody that bought property in 22, because that's our target year. So I've got the form now, we can send them out, and I hope to have them all out by the middle of September. People will send them back to us. Then on the sales verification form, if they bought a house, and say they bought all the contents in the house, it included personal property. That's not the true sales price of the house. So, if they bought the house furnished, we have to determine, what the person, how much was attributed to personal property. And people usually put that down on the sales verification form. So we've got to get that out. The most important thing I'm working on right now, because I've never seen one here, is a data collection manual. That's so when, if Kevin was to go out and look at a property, if you were to go out, Sheila was to go out, we're all following the same guidelines. This is a colonial. This is average condition. This is how you grade, bathrooms, kitchens. I'm working on that. And again, I used my resources. Instead of reinventing the wheel, I got a data collection manual from another community. That has to be turned into the Department of Revenue. I've already started working on cleaning that up to ours. And then I've got to go in to Gateway, which is where all the documents you guys all have signed into Gateway, and change the work plan that was submitted quite a while ago. And the work plan is who is going to do the work. Before it said CJ and Pat Aaron, I have to go in and amend that and put vision in and what vision is going to do. Important stuff. I got to get that done. And make sure all the building permits are, all the building permits from last year have been looked at. I've got a stack of building.
Yeah, I have a question on the building permits. Rena. Are they numbered?
Yes,
So we know that if a number has been skipped.
I should be, yeah,
That's-
because the building,
We want to count for every single one.
right. And they come right over from the building department. So, we want to make sure we haven't missed a house someplace.
Yeah.
And then the sales review, that will be looking at all the properties that sold. And basically, that's something that I will work on with Vision. Mike Torello from Vision, he's the project manager. So we'll be looking at all the sales to make sure, should it be coded out, should it not be coded out? Was it a family sale? Was it a court sale? All those things have to be looked at. And then the last thing I just added was, I've got to send all the changes, all the new lot splits up to the mapping company. So the maps can be updated if a parcel, if they've split off a lot, or if it's new subdivision. So basically right now, that's what I've got in front of me. So that should take me a few months.
He does, so. Maria, if I could,
Sure.
see for you, Mr. Chairman.
Please, don't bother.
No, I gotta get this. I gotta get
The
this right.
formalities, go ahead.
I'm so used to calling you captain. Yeah, that's just, Mr. Chairman. Okay, with regard to the mapping, we've heard from a number of folks that say, hey, my property map is off. And we don't really know how many that might be off. Would
No,
it
we
be good
don't.
to encourage people to go and look at their property cards
It's
And,
not gonna help because what the mapping company has, it's done by any plans or surveys or deeds.
uh-huh,
If something is carried through on a deed, and I have a couple of them here for you, the wrong square footage on a piece of property. The attorneys don't recreate the real either. They copy off the contents, parcel A by so many feet by this, so many feet. The mapping company is only for tax purposes. It's not illegal, it's not anything for legal purposes. So you can't use those maps for legal purposes. You can only use them to value a piece of land. So
okay,
if something's up, they should hire a surveyor and have the property surveyed.
right, and
Then
so,
those surveys will be sent to a mapping company, and the changes will be.
and then we updated. So do we have a mapping company that hosts?
Oh, yeah, we
that hosts
send
this
all
and
the
they-
changes in every year.
Uh-huh,
CAI they're up in Maine. Cartographics, they're in Maine. Is it Maine? or New Hampshire? Maybe it's New Hampshire. They used to be in Maine. So,
and so if people notice that it's wrong, and we're gonna ask them to contact you to see.
oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Because I've got a couple here where one man did have his property surveyed and it was off.
Yeah.
So I had that survey, so I've corrected it.
Mhm.
And as it was, he had filed an abatement. And because it was off, we can still
We-
adjust his value.
Yeah, okay,
We can
so
give him an additional.
now,
abatement.
every one of those little plot maps has footage and,
Yes.
and such. And so would we suggest to people that they go back and look at the property cards and make sure it's consistent with
They're
what
not
they
on
say?
the property record cards are only gonna have total acreage. They're not gonna.
Yeah,
They're
we
not gonna
tax them
say
on total
50
acreage.
feet on the street, the
Mhm.
sideline 75 feet, the back 50 feet. Then the property record cards only have an
and the
acreage.
picture of it, I know I've pulled them down, I used them to map up roughly where my property lines are.
Not on the property record cards.
On the record card? or
No.
not?
No.
Where did I get them? Huh,
Off the- There's,
Off of
there
the
there are
probably
maps.
off of
Yeah,
the
there's
maps
maps on it.
online.
Some of them.
Yeah,
Yeah,
maps
there's a map with the
Right.
road and it tells you the frontage and the.
Right.
Doesn't
Yeah.
tell you the square footage, but it
No, you
tells
just
you.
multiply.
Right.
You just do the
Yeah, but
multiplication.
again, they're not, maps are not, and if you look at the town maps on the bottom of every map, it says not for legal purposes.
Right.
Because if you've got a dispute with the neighbor, then you gotta get a survey, because
Right.
they're not for legal purposes.
Yeah.
I remember one of those when I was a kid.
Okay,
That would be our issue. We've done what's going on for the revaluation, basic office functions, besides what I had mentioned. When the stuff comes in, Sheila, you log in. I know you deal with with clients, mainly with the complaints. But basically, what else?
Everything motor vehicle.
Senior
Senior
exemption.
exemptions
Now,
are coming up.
The excise tax information comes from the registry, right?
directly.
So all we do, we regurgitate what they've given us.
They create the bills, yes.
Yeah.
And we print out the bills,
Yeah.
basically, and mail them.
And again, we've gone over this before. Oh, one of my favorite, the 61A. I know.
You gotta translate that for us.
61A is the agriculture, or 61. 61 is the
forest.
agriculture. There's 61A, which is farmland and.
And horticulture.
Horticulture. And 61B is for leisure.
Open, yeah,
And we've
recreation.
always
open
had a
space.
problem with them because invariably they're late. A lot of them are late. A lot of them are incomplete. The farm and anybody who's selling anything has to include a copy of the Schedule F, which is the
From
equivalent of the
from your
Schedule C.
income
It's
tax,
a
right.
farm profit and loss, and many of them don't.
Right.
I personally don't even believe half of them because Because in what I've done, all you gotta do is fill out a Schedule F the way you want to fill it out. You'd really like to see their actual tax return. We've actually had in the area of elderly and low income, we've actually found errors where people thought that they were eligible, but because of, we have to get a tax return from them because of something like, for example, somebody had a pension or an IRA worth umpty-ump dollars, and they wanted an exemption. Well, the exemption is based, number one, on income, and number two, on assets. That is $51,000 for a single person and $70,000 for a couple. And if you extrapolate, or in a number of cases, we've asked the taxpayer to bring in the statement from the mutual fund company, and lo and behold, they have a couple $100,000 of IRA money, and so that renders them ineligible. So there's a lot of verification that goes on. Sheila and I have actually had a lot of fun doing this, but not fun, but it's going, yeah, it's interesting, and it's going through. People are unaware. They think, well, my IRA is only $6,000 a year. Yeah, but you're collecting it over 29 years, and you multiply that by 29, it's $150,000. Oh, I didn't know. You're better off than you thought you were. So that's one of the things we do.
You're gonna find this interesting. I got this email this morning from Becky, our GUR rep. One thing I'd like to get done early and quickly is a review, a sample of all your classified land, 61A, 61B, and 61A.
Yeah.
So she says, please forward the following for 3 parcels each of 61, 61A, 61B. She wants the front and back of the actual filing application, the property record card, and a copy of the tax lien that the town has on it. I got this morning. So the DOR does check to see if everything is in order on classified properties. And I was surprised. I looked at the different classifications of land. We're down to only 12 61Bs. It seemed to me years ago we had a lot more than that, but we're down. But I think some of them have been taken out and developed.
Very possible, because
Yeah.
we've had a lot of construction.
So that's something, you know, first thing next week, I'll get all that up to Becky, not a problem.
Well, if I have a chance, I could come in and review the stuff. I was reviewing stuff at home, and I found an Excel spreadsheet
With all your
that I had done
temperaments.
on all the personal property taxes before we turned it over to RRG. Anyway,
You keep that stuff around?
oh, actually, I put it in the living room so that anybody who comes over can read it.
Oh. The coffee table, right?
Yeah.
Oh, what was it, right?
Coffee table book, yeah.
Yeah.
You're working.
Now, do we have any expense vouchers? Anything to sign? Oh, yeah.
Yes, yep.
We've got, yeah, signing the expense. What are we talking about? Discuss the office work plan?
You guys approved that.
Is there a work?
The work plan was actually
That,
this
that
thing
was,
for
she
the
provided,
for the
yeah.
review,
Okay.
for the evaluation.
I had put together, Sheila, did you bring up those copies of the, that we shared? Yeah, okay, good.
Oh, that's the thing.
That's a little different.
Kevin was supposed to
It's
keep one
just-
passed
It was
around.
primarily meant to be
Oh.
supplemental. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Rena and I were speaking about this before. You've got the good copy, you know, and essentially what we're looking at is the 5-year review that we're undergoing. And there was a certain number of requirements that we had. Yeah, okay. Let me go and watch it. Okay, that fell on our side of the bailiwick in terms of the outline inside of this document. These are the Lunenburg requirements and what we have to be able to provide.
Page 7 and 8,
Let's see, that's a 7 minutes.
responsibility of the parties.
Yeah,
They're right here.
okay. And so we thought, well, let's go take a look at it, each one of them. And do we have does that capability currently exist? Do we have to augment extra capacity to make sure we meet that? And at the same time, there's a schedule that they kind of put together with regard to,
This is.
yeah, when they were
scheduled
saying
from
these
Vision.
things are gonna be
Well,
done.
this is scheduled also from Vision.
Yeah,
Their timeline, and they'll be, a lot of this stuff is gonna be in that report is the project timeline.
yeah,
And a lot of that is the stuff that
exactly.
gets reviewed.
Exactly. And so we thought, well, it would kind of make sense to see from a visual perspective how we're progressing and if we need help. And after looking at my timeline chart, I'm not allowed to say Gantt chart. I promised my wife I wouldn't. You know, we've got a lot of stuff going on and we got a pile of stuff that's happening at the same time. And we have to support, and I know that the Vision folks have a lot of activity that's happening in November through January,
Yeah, that
right?
would be the
A
bulk of it.
ton of stuff. And we have some responsibilities that have to be able to meet, to stay timely with them. And so the question, do we have the capacity to be able to meet those requirements such that we don't slow that schedule down? And so I thought, okay, let's use some basic project management tools. And that would be, if the board would like, I'd certainly work with Rena to make that timeline Gantt chart a reality. And for that matter, each one of those elements in here have certain other responsibilities from other folks that have to be kind of identified, Rich. And so if it makes sense, we can do that. And that way that can become the basis for how we could, keep us up to date.
A lot of these are right here.
Yeah, but these tie into
And
these,
a lot of those are right here on,
yeah,
in your Vision book.
but you don't see all the dependencies that go along with allow us to do that. And what's our status on those dependencies? And
Well,
so,
like sales analysis and verification, that's gonna be done by Vision. I
yeah,
just have to make sure all the 22 sales are in there and they've been either coded out, because Vision's not gonna come in and say, well, this was a family member, that one shouldn't be.
right.
And
The
I'm
arm's
sure
length
Sheila has
transaction.
already gone through all those. All the 22 sales are in there.
Yeah.
So a lot of these have already been
And
started.
that's great. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
We want to get credit for what
Yeah,
is
a lot of
available
this-
and just focus on the things that aren't, that or you perceive as, we got to get some resources in there. We've got to find a way of getting that help and getting that done. And as soon as we can build that kind of chart, well, the selectmen are saying, tell us what we want to do, what's going on there. We have the ability to say, with some data, this is what it looks like. And for that matter, I don't see why wouldn't you want to post it up to the town, tell the town, these are all the things that go into this. And that's why we might be asking, I'm not saying this that we are or anything like that, but asking for help, for a temp or something like that to help you get through the night here and to make sure that we in fact are able to meet that schedule. And again, I'd be interested to find out what kind of dependencies we have. And it'd be a good learning experience for the entire town to see how complicated this really can be. And it's simple to you folks, but to someone on the outside, ooh, this looks pretty interesting, or why are we doing that? Or do we have enough? And maybe they can be more sympathetic too, with regard to seeing that, yeah, things are rolling in the right direction over here. And that, please, don't beat up, and Sheila, honestly, folks, anybody that's listening, be gentle. Be gentle with the people at the door in the office. They don't need all that. So anyway, I would like to propose that if the board wants and allows me, I'll work with Rena on trying to identify all the dependencies and what we got done. I think we got half of that. I'm just throwing it out. Half of that done. But let's give them credit for what's going on and the stuff that we know we have to hustle on. That's okay. That's what a project's all about.
Well, I know I have to have those sales verification letters out, and possibly mailed back by September 15th.
Yeah.
Because that's when Vision is going to start reviewing. And that's a lot of this stuff. That's why I'm starting on it now.
Right.
That's why I went to Kathy, her copy of the sales verification letter. I'll make my own cover sheet with that time.
Without,
Dear taxpayer,
Yeah.
please fill this out on return.
Mhm.
Because Vision is gonna want to see that the samples out. Department of Revenue is gonna want to see that
Right.
the samples out. So, you know, this is the kind of stuff that,
now, did we have to project, you had to submit some sort of a project plan around this 5-year
a
review?
work. a
The work plan?
Yes. I did not do it. CJ did it because that
Okay.
was done probably last fall.
Yeah,
I have to go in and amend it to say now Vision is
Right.
going to do the evaluations. And I haven't got my login for Gateway yet, so. Well,
I forgot my password.
Karen hadn't been here and Kathy said it's up to Karen, so I'll
Yeah.
get it. done.
If it might be helpful, I asked, CJ had a time mat hanging over by his desk, and if you look at the desk, it was on the right-hand side. And I said, are those the events? Is that what the schedule looked like? He goes, well, that's the year before schedule, and I've got to update that and make some updates. And I don't know if he did the updates and left you with them or whatever, but, you know, well, okay, that's the planning tool you're gonna use. Where, you know, where the other piece of it, I was just learning.
My personal feeling is what you're saying, Jack, and I appreciate your comments, but let them do it. If they need help,
We'll reach out.
they'll rattle our cage.
Oh, Mr. Chairman, and with all due respect, we also have a responsibility to provide the town with visibility to assure that those policies and that thing is going on. I'm not worried that it's not gonna happen, but we have to ourselves be assured that they are. And
Well-
Freena's telling us, I'm 90% there, but I only need is that other 10%.
I will keep you guys posted on where I'm at, if you know, I get still clarifications back. Can you sure I'm gonna start mailing those out Monday? That's what I like.
And my feeling is we can treat it the same way we did the abatements. Let them know during our monthly meeting. That's why.
Okay. However,
And then the other question becomes, do we, with regard to the state, I think it's in here.
and it's not like this town has 500 sales a year. You're lucky if you have 140, 130, right?
Zillow counts at
It's a small-
40 so far this year. That's
Yeah,
not
it's a
an
low
enormous
number,
number.
so it's not,
Are we keeping up? And what happened last year? Did we keep up with those? Do we have that data in there? So that was one of the questions. And the DOR, I don't know what the schedule is, but this is what they publish. You've seen that out of the training manuals.
well,
And
I
and
gave
it's the
you,
same thing. It's
I
the same.
gave you the year's schedule. I
Right.
gave you that. It's
And
that.
is this, does that schedule accommodate the pushback that we've got going? And will that accommodate the pushback?
That one, right there. The schedule that I printed out for everybody, that's a month by month of what the DOR is expecting.
Okay,
So,
and so those are the preliminary
This-
certification, public disclosure, all
Yeah.
that stuff that's in there.
The timelines with the Department of Revenue have been adjusted. The one thing that I really want you guys to do today, and I thought about this morning, I want somebody to make a motion and then take a vote to send out third quarter estimated tax bills. That has to be done, a motion has to be made. I think that has to be done prior to either August 1st or August 15th. I have to check the date. But if you could do it today, it's just a vote. If we have to send them out, the vote is there. If we do have to send them out and you haven't voted on it, the DOR is not going to let us send out third quarter estimated
Oh, and
bills.
that's very important to get those out.
Very
Yeah,
important.
oh, yeah.
And right now, it looks like because of the pushback, we will be going with third quarter estimated bill. So people will not get their actual bill until May 1st.
And that could be the big shift. We have to
Well,
make an
it's a
adjustment.
difference between doing that and borrowing the money.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Now, Rena, is that what the preliminary certification, that's what they want, and they wanted it by the 15th of
No,
September?
no, no. They want, no.
No?
The preliminary certification is usually in September. I don't.
Oh, 9/15, I'm sorry, 9/15. Yeah, 9/15. And
The
that's,
Vision is taking care of that. They'll
Okay.
submit everything for preliminary certification.
but we're gonna be late, we know that.
We knew that.
Yeah, and so is there are new dates that,
No.
That we have
they'll
to
still
go-
Everything The only thing that's gonna change is instead of the second quarter, we've sent out the first and second quarter preliminary bills. So our actual bill would have been the January bill. Now our actual bill will be May 1st. But we can't do preliminary unless the board votes to send them out. Whether we, and at this point, we're gonna have to send out bids, whether it's one. So,
Actually-
So I'm sorry. Yeah.
so if somebody could make a motion today,
I was gonna ask somebody to make a motion.
But, Mr. Chairman, before we go there, can you share with us how that preliminary bill was established?
preliminary based on previous year's value,
Yeah.
previous year's tax rate.
Yes.
So had we not done all these abatements, everything would have just been the same on their tax bills.
Right.
But the 400 abatements they did, what CJ did was, he went in and he put the new site indexes in. And he put $1 per square foot on each one of those site index, good waterfront average and below average. So we didn't run into a problem with people calling up and saying, I got my tax bill, I got my abatement, nothing has changed, it's still showing a high value. So that's why the preliminary bills are going out, and some of them are a little bit higher on land values than their abatements. But that's because CJ tried to get as close to those numbers as he possibly could on the $1 per square foot to get those preliminary bills
Right.
out.
So we hammered the levy. We took it, normally I'm just gonna
We
tell you.
had no levy. We had $116,000
Yeah,
in the levy. Out of that comes your motor vehicle abatements, your real estate abatements,
Yeah.
your veterans abatements, your elderly abatements, everything comes out of that. We only had $116,000 for them.
right. So we lowered our income capacity through those abatements to those people who live in the lakes.
I think they used free cash.
They used their free cash.
I think-
So, but our new tax base for those people is lower.
Yes, it
And
is.
so now in order to come up to a reasonable level to stay on schedule, like the 2.5% or whatever, is gonna be a little bit of a
2.5%,
waveform there.
2.5% is nothing to do with individual.
That's a
quotes.
gross number.
It's a gross number.
That's on the
But that-
overall.
that's-
That's
Yeah, overall.
the
that
overall
excludes-
value of the town.
It-
You cannot go over 2.5% of the overall value of
Right.
the entire town.
Well, you've got new growth in there as well that you get to add in.
Then you get to add your new
Add your
growth.
new growth in there. So anyway, we came back and we lowered that. So if we're just doing multiplication on the new lower value, is the town losing out on any money?
What's gonna happen, Jack, is it
No.
that third
No.
quarter bill? if My recollection is right, because I've had to deal with these with people doing their tax returns. They'll always wonder, why is the bill here? And all of a sudden, it's much different in the second and then in the third and fourth
Right.
quarter. And so the third quarter will be lower or higher. The fourth quarter will make up the difference or shorten it.
Right.
So we should be warning people that here you go, don't assume that stack tax rate is going to stay the same. There's going to be some sort of
An adjustment.
An adjustment. And do we have any inkling of what kind or how big? Is it going to be 3%?
No, because, no.
You won't know
We
until.
don't
We
know.
won't know
We won't know
until the tax rate is set, and that's,
Yeah.
if there's a fall town meeting, you have to wait till after that is over. Because if there's any spending in the fall town meeting, all that has to be figured into the tax rate.
Okay.
So,
And yeah, we gotta have the money no matter what.
Gotta have money, that's right.
We can't borrow any more money. So, yeah, I would, if someone makes a motion. I'll
No,
second
yeah,
it.
would someone make a motion?
All right, so what you need a motion, just confirming what I. motion.
yeah, a motion to send out estimated third quarter tax bills.
Motion to send out estimated third quarter tax bills as per the recommendation of the primary assessor.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. That's a very important motion.
Yeah,
That's why I wanted to make sure what the hell.
Yeah.
Point of the motion.
You want to say it right.
and
Exactly.
it's something over the years, when my board would do it every year anyway. And we have never sent out a third quarter estimated tax bill. But the DOR, if something had happened, we had to, without that motion by the Board of
If
Assessors.
you don't have it in your back pocket, you
You
can have a
can't
problem.
use it, right?
You may as well keep an arrow in your quiver when all you have to do is say 50 words in the verb.
Thank you. And I actually, I thought of that last week, but I just wanted to get that in. So, everything's.
Okay, so going through the,
I think
what's
Jack
happening
needs to
during the
sign
operation.
Stack of stuff.
I'm sorry.
You're talking about the,
Yeah.
yeah, Rich and I signed up Jackson.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
I
Jackson,
understand.
sign.
Okay, thank you.
You can stop talking and start signing. How's that?
No, come on, that's no fun. Okay,
Well,
hey.
actually, we've got to, Rena's got to be out of here by 4, so.
Okay,
Thanks.
okay, I'm not gonna talk that
I
much.
have to be out by 4 too, so
Okay.
join the club.
Okay, so anyway, I would suggest in terms of our meeting. I'm sorry.
Since I have to go
Right,
home
okay,
and shower and eat before I go.
Yeah,
do
cool,
5 more
exactly.
hours of work.
Okay, okay.
We take care
So
of it.
anyway, do we have any kind of a log that says, okay, we made these decisions, and like in case of the fire roads, crossing somebody's property and splitting them up, and
I think
does
that's
anybody else?
Case by case.
Oh, I
Jack.
agree, but do you have, you make a, you kind of set up a general policy, and then you look at the other conditions that you consider, such that when that comes up, we can go through the same consideration
Well-
process that we use with the other members of town.
Yeah, well, there, on things like right of ways.
Yeah.
I just found out recently that it has to be written on their deed. So if somebody's complaining there's a right of way against their property, it has, in order for us to give them a reduction on the land for a right of way, it has to be written on their deed that there is a 10 by 100-foot right of way that crosses their property.
Right.
You can't, it was always, I guess I always assumed that if somebody complained, I got it right away. You know, the board in Brighton, you know, they were very, okay. And, you know, they would, do it.
So I don't, I'm not trying to get hung
Eventually,
up
it has to
on
be
that.
on their deed.
Yeah, I'm
So-
not trying to get hung up on that piece. And the fact is, you just threw a nice piece of gold out on the table and said, oh, this is something to remember and consider when we're going ahead and dealing with fire roads and things like that. And there were some other pieces that we took and said, let's, that become the basis for our consideration. We probably just want to record those such a, when that issue comes up, and new whack job members like me join, we'd have no clue as to how to really evaluate it and what historically has been evaluated. And so therefore, if we can start just compiling that sort of data history, this is how we have approached the problem. And your point is everyone is unique, but you have particular thought processes and thought points. You want to kind of come back and say, this needs to be considered.
Well, one of the things I've always used, and I know Vision has it, Patriot has it, there's a comment section and there's a place for private notes
Yeah,
that they don't show up on the private record card, that you can put a right of way was granted on this property because it had a 10-foot by 100-foot right of way that crossed over 5 properties.
Mhm.
And we granted and abatement for that. You can put that in. the
I would
private
agree.
notes.
I would agree that that should be in the property card someplace.
But I
for the
think you're
basis.
looking for something like a manual, because when it comes to like topography, the Department of Revenue has certain standards. You can only go 5, 10, 15, or 25% off on just the land value for
Right.
topography. They don't like you to go to the high numbers. They would prefer you stay between 5 and 15.
Yeah.
If you're gonna grant somebody something for topography.
So we're talking the same thing.
So
Someplace that
I
Kevin
think
can
what
go,
you're saying is just some of these things to be written down someplace.
right, and retained and as part of a document that continues to be maintained and we continue to evolve that, and with
And-
regard,
And probably that's something that after the reval's done.
sure, I'm only suggesting that we get that on the
It's
radar. too.
actually, it's a good idea, just like you don't have a data collection manual on this.
Right,
town.
that was your idea, and I love that
Well,
one.
no, every town is supposed to have
I
one. I
know.
had one.
Yeah.
Because you have to show that to the Department of Revenue.
Mhm.
Didn't Harold have, he would have had to show it.
Well,
He must have kept
he would have had to, all his people would have had to, he would have had to have one to give to all his field people.
As assessors.
Right, so when they go out in the field, they're all looking at a colonial and seeing it the same way. In the Dave manual, there's photographs. This is a ranch, one level. This is a colonial. This is a contemporary. And I've got, actually Ron sent me his from Sardis. And I've got to go in and change the addresses, change the zoning requirements. But basically, the manual is there. I just have to clean it up.
Yeah.
Because that's one thing that's gonna have to be given to the DOR. That's something I'm working on. So.
Good job. I love the fact that you're benchmarking other towns and cities and you steal the best. Really nice.
Well, I went to a retirement party last Thursday afternoon. Found out some interesting things.
You're
but-
talking about your rich.
No, I already told Rich. About the gentleman that wants to apply here, which I can't understand, right? Are we still public?
Yes, we are still public.
Yeah, so
So, it helps to know a lot of people.
Yeah,
people in a lot of
contacts are very
different
important, yeah.
places.
I have another question, with regard to customer concerns, complaints and things like that. Do we have any kind of a corrective? Most companies will keep if you're a customer service, right, Kevin? You give them a customer service number and that was their control number. If there was an inquiry, and that way you can always reference it back.
In general, that sort of thing was routed through corporate.
Yeah.
It would go, we would give them our corporate customer service number for something like
Right,
that.
and
Then they could get a case number through them.
yeah,
Yes.
so establishing case numbers and things like an inquiry numbers. And the question becomes, if somebody's calling up and wants an activity, right now, it's easy for me. Yeah, call the assessors, but you can get a dozen. Do you keep a log, Sheila, of the calls and who might have called? And
You know,
what if-
I had an assessor in Groton that asked me to do that.
Yeah,
It was such a waste of my time because.
They call them abatements. They call them
Somebody
abatements.
was complaining and, I'd have to move on to the next call.
Mhm.
And and Sheila, I've seen her at the counter.
oh, yeah,
They come in, they have an issue, we take care of them right then.
right.
But it's a small office, we don't have time to log all the calls in. Her emails, she can't keep up with her emails. She is now, but during this process, people were sending her emails. Can you tell me what my new value is? Can you?
Mhm.
It's hard to keep up with that,
Oh, I
but
agree.
at least if they're in emails, they're
We
they're
could-
saved.
This is again for the future. So we could build a quick streamlined system. Who are you? And then what do you call for? Because what you want to be doing, and that's the thing you guys didn't have time to do, is to start evaluating what kind of complaints am I getting? And
Well,
how
we
can
can
I
tell you.
short circuit that?
It's
Jack,
mostly
most of the
motor
co-
vehicle.
Most of the complaints are, it's,
Real estate
my
motor
taxes are
vehicle.
too high.
Yeah, and then that's great.
And
We
I
put a
don't have
check,
this car
taxes too
anymore, but
high.
you sent me a bill, it's
Yeah.
motor vehicles.
And so if you get an understanding of the volume, of what's causing our customers to come back and call, can we figure out how to make it go a lot easier, a lot faster, even better yet, have them not call?
We're doing
Unfortunately,
okay.
with motor vehicle stuff, there's really not, because it's
No,
literally
motor
regurgitation.
vehicles, if they come in with the paperwork, you do it right.
Oh, yeah,
then.
and then
And
and
if
motor
they
vehicle
call,
processing,
if
that
they
wouldn't
call,
call
say,
for corrective
"Bring me
action.
this,
It
bring me
it's
this."
just a regular activity that you do and provide. I
We
don't,
have logs of how many motor vehicle abatements we do every month. You guys sign off on
Right.
them.
okay,
But to
Same thing with the
yeah,
abatements.
so you've got a lot.
itemize each and every phone
We-
call.
yeah.
No, I'm not saying,
Can't
you
do
know,
that.
if it's
Yeah.
just a functional thing, you keep track of the amount of volume you're trying to service.
Besides real estate taxes, what's your biggest And excise tax. What's your biggest complaint?
Right?
Yeah.
Everything going pretty smoothly.
So
until-
we got a list of the,
Until
we got
this-
a list of excise taxes.
Yeah.
I think we've actually got it. It just probably isn't in the formal way that you would like it, Jack, but
Well, it's
I
not
think
a-
it's there.
Yeah, it's there, and then what, we just need to
Everything was
start
fine.
analyzing it,
Everything
that's
was
all.
fine until this whole lakefront thing. You know, right now, we're gonna be going to elderly exemptions. We're starting a big mailing list.
Mm.
We've got it under
Awesome.
control, yeah.
Is that on the event schedule, the elderly event?
Oh,
list?
yeah.
Is that on your schedule?
Very busy, but.
On this
we've
thing
got it
here.
Is
under
it? I
control.
just haven't
Well-
read it, Rich, I haven't seen it.
It's a courtesy
Mhm.
to mail out forms.
Yeah,
This town mails them out.
Good.
It's a courtesy. I know a lot of communities that say, you mail them out, make them come in and get it. No.
yeah,
no.
especially the elderly.
And we don't want it to
So-
be like that.
Yeah.
If we have a log of something and you're keeping track of it, you know.
You
Let
don't,
me go, I'll
you've got
go
a
back.
log.
Yeah, you've got a log, and I didn't know that you had the log. So let me go and if I could, with your permission, I'll go and look at that and just see.
Well,
what-
you just
what-
sign them. The abatement.
You just, oh, you, no, he
Yeah, I
has,
just want to look at it from a cumulative basis.
there you go,
that's
right
all.
there.
Yeah, and what are, could there be a common trend? The data card collection program, property cards, okay. So post-sales inspection, you're starting that. and-
Yes.
Yeah, and we're doing that. Okay, how we analyze the current market conditions and valuations?
That's
We're
through-
supposed to be driving
that's the
around,
Sales analysis.
Yeah.
That's through the sales.
now we're
analysis.
doing that now?
Oh, well,
Yeah.
all the 2002 sales are in there. And I
Okay,
believe CJ has started that.
you started that?
22.
Are we up to date? or is it-
That's what
oh,
I
you
said,
said 2002.
2002.
I'm like, that might be a little outdated.
2022. Sorry.
So if we're doing that, that's great. And are we sharing that data? Are we seeing, should we be sharing some of that data with the town? You know, by the way, our real estate, according to Zillow, I think property values went up 4.5%, 5% in the last quarter or so, or I'm throwing that out there, but
This is,
anticipate your
I-
taxes are gonna go
this
up.
office doesn't have the manpower to do this.
Right.
And we will notify people on every, on
Is
the
it
meeting.
worth investing in that manpower? to
What,
get that
what,
information?
what I used to do when I had time, right, I would print out the property record cards of all the properties that sold, put them in a sales book. And since we're coming up to start reviewing, that would be easy enough to do. Put them in a book. This,
Yeah.
so somebody come in. Oh, you want to know what sold this year? This is all the
We can
properties
do a
that
sales
sold.
book.
Yeah,
We can do a
put it on the
sales book.
website to say, yeah,
Well, we
Listen.
don't have control of the website.
you don't have control of the website.
No.
It's Kathy that's got control.
We can put binders, seals,
Yeah.
that kind of
So
thing, out
maybe-
for public access.
There's a binder right near the front door that's got some kind of information. in it. I
Well,
don't know.
yeah, that's got to be changed because that's old information.
Yeah, I realize
More
that. but
information,
it's-
yeah. Okay, that's good. Are we capturing all the building permits? And you answered that question. You know, they're all numbered and logged.
Yeah.
Are we doing a sequential look to make sure that we're getting the building permit like we did? I love the fact you put a control number on the front of it and all the abatement pieces, and that worked out really well. And I'm glad that the building, so do you ever look for also big,
We have a whole system that, we have a viewpoint.
yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And you do that viewpoint,
Yeah.
so you're comfortable with that? That's wonderful. I had even had that yes, but you said earlier in the meeting. Visiting here as a town on an annual basis, and what do the reports look like? You do drive-by shootings?
What, drive-by shooting?
Yeah, in terms of you,
Not here in Lunenburg.
no, never, please.
Well, one of the things for adding towards sickle code inspection. When you go out and do a building permit, when you go out and do that, you put in the visit history. A couple of weeks ago, I went to a brand new house out on somewhere.
Yeah.
Off of Holborn.
Holman Street.
Yeah, a brand new house down there. That was like 25 miles off the beaten path. He had 10 acres. Every one of those you log in on the visit history. So anything on building permits, abatement inspections, all those get logged in, so they all count
Right.
towards the sickle.
and they were on the property card. And
Yes.
when
On the visitors.
Nate came and visited me, he said, you want me in the house? I said, sure, come on. But he goes, oh, I don't have to come in because Rena had been here earlier. I thought that was really good.
Yeah, it's on the
so-
visit list.
And that's being incorporated in there. It- One of the things that came up in a couple different times is sometimes the citizens will have a question and we're not able to answer them, or we're gonna have to defer on putting that in there. Should we create some sort of a record of unanswered questions so we can come back and get back to them?
I don't think you need to, because if the question is unanswered, the staff takes care of it immediately.
Oh, no, from us, to us.
To us, so,
Yeah.
so like what?
Well,
Refer them
if somebody
to us.
calls you, they shouldn't be calling.
No,
you.
they aren't, I'm
if
saying
somebody
go there,
calls-
but
yeah.
we had a resident come in and ask us some questions, Rich. And we said, well, we'll get to you. And I just thought, okay, is this gonna be one of those dangling participles that never gets addressed? Or are we gonna remember to come back? And I was thinking, okay, is that something that we want to be doing? If there's any unanswered questions that we couldn't, and we should be asking them, Dan, did that answer your question? And if they say, yeah, I guess so, and if they say no, okay, let's just keep a record of it and hit them again next time and answer it.
Well, usually we have, if they're on Zoom or even in the audience, are there any more questions?
Yeah, oh, I agree,
Yeah.
I agree. And just, if we didn't have, if we don't have any unanswered questions, that's a good thing. That's a good thing. So that was, okay, that's it for me for
Okay.
now. How's that?
Well, I'd like a motion to go into executive session. So I need a motion to close this meeting, correct?
Well, no, you motion into executive session
And then close it.
with
Oh,
But
not
not-
to,
not to
return.
return
Okay.
to
Not to
public
return.
session after
Okay,
executive
so
session.
I'd like, Kevin, what do I do that? Can I get a motion to do?
Motion to move into executive session, not to return to public session after executive session.
Second?
Second.
Roll call vote.
Yeah, roll call.
Yeah, roll call.
Kevin Fish, aye.
John Rabbit, Jack. Aye.
Rich Sattar, aye. So the meeting is closed.
Okay, and I guess I should close it down, but I just
Yeah.
wanted to
Oh.
say, hey, Carl.
You've been here.
Carl, do you have any?
You were over listening us.
No, the Carl has a right to come back and over the end. You always give me. Carl, do you have any questions?
Too many.
Too many. Okay, send us the
Next
question.
time. See you again next time.
Okay, well.
Thank you very much.
Carl. Thank you for showing interest in participating.
Goodbye.
I'm done in 3 years. You can run,
Yeah, I'm running now.
Okay.
Good night.
Night now.
Night.
Thank you so much. Yes. Oh, somebody showed, who did that? Oh, he signed off.
I don't know.
Oh, Carl's.
Okay, and so stop recording.